Keep Our Republic is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. Since the spring of 2020, we've been doing our part to help keep our republic. We do it through hyper-localized civic education. We talk with Americans through town halls, legal seminars, media briefings, and other events. We know a lot of Americans have a lot of questions about how our elections work, what safeguards are in place, and who actually is working behind the scenes on election night as the votes are being tabulated. And that's why we're really glad you're joining us today. Hopefully, we can answer some of those questions. Celestine Jeffries, thank you so much for joining our audience. Tell folks, I think everyone is probably familiar with your hometown football team, but maybe they don't know a lot else about Green Bay. So tell folks a little about Green Bay.
I love talking about Green Bay, my adopted home. My husband and I have lived here about a quarter century. Here's what people don't know about Green Bay. Green Bay has the 25th oldest continuously running amusement park in the world. It's called Bay Beach. It's been around actually for something around like 90 years. But yeah, it's one of the oldest continuously running amusement parks. And you can get on a ride for 25 cents.
I don't even think there's anything you could buy at any amusement park in this country for 25
I
cents.
know.
Um, I
It's a
I was
gem.
just I was just at another amusement park that shall remain nameless. They're doing one of the Christmas Town Christmas experiences, and I think soda was like $11.25. But okay, so then this begs the question: what's your favorite ride at this historic
Oh
amusement
my
park?
gosh. Well, when my kids were younger, there's like a chair ride that uses like swings on chains that go high in the air. So I really like that one. There's a new Ferris wheel. I haven't been on it though. I've been working so hard. But yeah, there's a lot of really good rides at Bay Beach. But I think the chair ride is my favorite.
Well, we're gonna talk about that work in a moment. Oh, so what drew you to a career in public service? And you've had many roles, and maybe we'll go through those. But was it from a young age, or did a light bulb go off at some point?
It's kind of a yeah, I would say from a young age, I testified at a traffic meeting in my hometown of Absecon, New Jersey, um, when I was 14. And I was on the local news because my high school had issue with the student. They had to deny a diploma. So I think the bug was bitten there, but turned my attention to teaching. I lived overseas for a little bit, moved to Green Bay. And, Green Bay, Ari, is one of those places where you can just roll up your sleeves, get to work, find three people to join you, and boom, it's done. And so when we moved to Green Bay, I made the decision to be part of my community, my adopted community. And that's what I did. So I volunteered for some boards, ran for city council, ran for school board, became the chief of staff for two mayors, and then I've been in this role since 2021.
Well, I've had the pleasure of visiting both Absecon and Green Bay multiple times. Very different parts of our great country. One smells a lot more like salt water and the Atlantic
Yes.
Ocean there. And one has incredibly crystal clear water, like
Mhm.
the Great Lakes tend to do. So you just alluded to it. You have worn multiple hats, including being on the ballot and being on these boards. So tell our audience a little more about that. And then, for that matter, we have audience members beyond the great state of Wisconsin. Just the governance of these boards, how one gets on these boards, what their responsibilities are.
Sure. And whenever I meet someone new here in Green Bay and they want again, roll up your sleeves, get involved. I'm like, join a board. So the first board I joined was for a local nonprofit. Actually, it's part of a national group called NeighborWorks. So housing, basically getting housing support, down payment closing cost assistance for people who apply, income qualify. A lot of times, especially even in bigger communities like Milwaukee or Chicago or Indianapolis here in the Midwest, Detroit, there are a lot of boards and commissions that are looking for really bright, active people who want to make a difference. And so, from my work at NeighborWorks, I started a neighborhood association in my neighborhood. From there, the mayor at the time, Jim Schmidt, encouraged me to run for city council. And so I ran, won twice. I'm the first African American elected to anything here in Green Bay. Um, then my time at city council had come to kind of an end. Um, just wanted to do something different. The then superintendent of schools approached me. Hey, why don't you run for school board? So won two elections, lost the third. But then Mayor Schmidt had asked me if I wanted to be the chief of staff. So actually, this April, I will have celebrated 20 years, or I will celebrate 20 years in public life in Green Bay. And Green Bay is a diverse community. When I first moved here, it was a little less diverse, but the diversity has grown. Something else people may not know about Green Bay or the state of Wisconsin is that we have a lot of Native American nations in this state. Many, as you can guess, many of our names, the city's names, are Native American names. And so Oneida is a community that intersects, the boundaries intersects with Green Bay. And so we have always had the diversity of the Oneida here in Green Bay, and also the Menominee, as well as the Ho-Chunk, I believe, are right here in town. So there's always been diversity here in Green Bay since its founding, and it's just continued to grow and deepen and make Green Bay just a very interesting and wonderful place to live.
It's about 100,000 or so
Yeah,
city residents.
107, 594.
Has population more or less stayed the same, or is it growing,
It
shrinking?
has been staying about a little over 105,000. So right now we're the third largest city in Wisconsin. We'll see how the Kenosha, I think it might be Kenosha, maybe catching up to us. But then you go
But
from
Kenosha doesn't have an NFL team, so there.
they don't, but they're closer to the lake than we are. We have Green Bay, right? They're close to the lake. Um, and the Brown County where Green Bay sits is growing. Like many communities, there's a city and then there's some outlying areas. So we're very much like other places. But the next two largest cities are much larger than Green Bay, Madison at well over 250, and then Milwaukee at 600. So, yeah.
So as we get a little bit deeper now, so how many total voters then?
Yes. Ah. I say this with a sigh because we only have about 55,000 registered voters. Our voter universe of voting age is like 78, 83,000. So there's a gap there. There's some things that my office needs to do. We need more staff time, more staff to dedicate to voter outreach. But yeah, we hover at around 50,000 registered voters.
Okay, so let's give audience members who are not election wonks and not from the state of Wisconsin just the kind of 90-second overview of the fairly unique system that exists in Wisconsin from the municipal level, county level, then the fact you have an elections commission. Um, uh, Go.
Yes. So, unlike many other states other than Michigan, Wisconsin is very decentralized. So, local clerks like myself and clerks Milwaukee, 600,000, all the way down to the village of Pound, which is a very small village here in Wisconsin with less than 400 people. Each one of us run elections. The county helps us with various things like making ballots. They help us in Green Bay, they help us with notices. But unlike, let's say, in Colorado, where the elections are run by the county, same thing in Florida. I visited Broward County's election operations. The county runs it. Here, and same in New Jersey. Here in Wisconsin and Michigan, it's very decentralized. Someone once told me that Wisconsin is responsible for 1/6 of all the clerks in the United States. We have almost 1,900. And the elections commission. So many secretaries of state run elections in other states, but here we have a commission where the commissioner is appointed by the governor and approved by the Wisconsin legislature. And then there are three each, three Democrat, three Republican members of the board that run the commission. And the partisan breakdown is by statute. And so they're the ones that interpret their administrative agency. So they interpret all the state laws and produce documents for clerks to follow.
And keep our republics a nonpartisan nonprofit, but just curious, why do you think Wisconsin is always so perpetually purple? And if anything, it's as you look at what they call swing states,
Mm-hmm.
battleground states, it's always like the slimmest of margins is
Mm-hmm.
in Wisconsin.
Well, Ari, I attribute it to something that I discovered when I first moved here. And it is the ties, the interpersonal ties here in Wisconsin are very close. And so I honestly think that people talk to each other. And that's why, we're purple, but we literally swing one way and the other. Uh, like vote my county voted, I believe, for Barack Obama in 2008, and then the county voted for Mitt Romney in 2012. And so I can't think of the other elections, but certainly for president, these are very well known. The 2016 election very closely went for the Republican, our current president, Donald Trump, same 24. But in 2020, Wisconsin as a whole voted for Joe Biden. So I think it's because have a lot of close interpersonal ties. And I think that honestly, if I had to sort of psychoanalyze it, I think it's because we talk to each other, and I think we have the ability to convince. Plus, there's still a lot of associations here. People still bowl in Wisconsin, for instance. Bowling alleys are alive and well. Shooting societies, like guns, I mean, fishing. So I think people really enjoy getting together with others, and I think that's a way for us to talk to each other. And I think that's why it's so close here in Wisconsin, usually.
Yeah, never. I mean, there's probably a whole psychological analysis and a PhD to be had about exactly that. But yeah, this is a state that on the same exact day reelected a Democratic governor and Tony Evers and reelected a Republican senator and Senator Johnson. So, okay, so some changes have happened in recent years in Wisconsin election administration. You're smiling, I'm smiling. There's been a lot of focus from those in Madison under the Capitol Dome, those coming to local government meetings and your office, and those, frankly, thousands of miles away who might not know so much about Wisconsin elections but have perspective on it. So maybe you can give some of our audience just kind of an overview of some of the changes in recent years.
Sure. So since I became clerk in 2021, quite a few things have changed. The way that absentee ballots are collected has changed. So you can no longer drop off a ballot for somebody else. Only if that person is disabled can you drop off a ballot for them. And that means putting it in a mailbox technically as well, or in a drop box. The In a way that's positive, into around absentee balloting, our forms have changed to make them clearer. Um, Also, over the last, I'd say maybe 10 or 15 years, Wisconsin has become very strict regarding obtaining a ballot. So we're one of those states that have always, since I've certainly been clerk, and even when I was on council, required a photo ID in order to vote. And it is one of 7 IDs, very, very strict, very narrow. So that's something else that I think a lot of states are looking at or maybe struggling with. Here in Wisconsin, it's been that way for quite some time. Another change with elections here in Wisconsin really has to do with um, and these are in many ways very small changes, but our observer rules are very generous to observers in Wisconsin. And so the Elections Commission has recently looked at, well, do we need to make them a little bit more narrow? But no, we kept them to be generous. Observers have actually quite a lot of access and latitude here in Wisconsin. And I'm trying to think of other things that have really come down the pike. And now I'm blanking on them, unfortunately.
Well, regarding voter ID. I know that this seems to perpetually be coming up in Harrisburg, and as Pennsylvania, in fits and starts, talks about modernizing its code. So, and some states have this, some states don't. Voter ID means many things to many people. You often hear the argument, well, I need an ID to get on a plane. I need an ID just to get into a Class A office building. So if I had a Michigan driver's license or Minnesota driver's license, does that suffice?
So, up until something I read this summer, the answer would be a hard no. I did read something about having a driver's license from out of state with a star on it. I don't have any guidance from the WEC about that just yet. But so I'm just going to go back to what I thought I'd read this summer. And yeah, no, the answer is 100% no. You cannot vote in Wisconsin with a Michigan or Illinois driver's license. However, if you have a passport and you're registered to vote, even if you, and we also have same day registration in Wisconsin. So, there are states that I have visited, way south of us where you can't register on election day. And that actually is very, I feel as a clerk that that's detrimental. It's a lot more work for me, without doubt. But it is detrimental for people who, quite frankly, a lot of people do have a voting habit, and a lot of other people do voting kind of at the last minute. So it's nice if you have same day registration. So again, if you lived in Michigan and you want to come to Wisconsin to vote, I actually had somebody call me in 24. Hey, I just live across the border because Wisconsin has this UP, right? So very close to Michigan. We share a border, and I'm going to come and vote in Wisconsin because my vote's going to matter. There. I'm like, well, do you live here? Well, no. Well, then you can't vote here. But I really want to come vote.
Do you
So
want to commit a
sorry.
crime?
So sorry. We don't welcome, people coming from out of state to vote in our elections. Come move here. So we also have a fairly strict residency requirement. 28 days is I think it's very long. It used to be 10, 8 years ago. Now it's 28 days. So, right. It's very, very strict. Can't vote with an out-of-state residence. You have to establish residency when you come and register on election day. You have to show us that you've lived there for 28 days. You have to attest to it on your application, and then show us a photo ID, which could be a passport, but not a Michigan driver's license. As much as we love Michigan.
So, follow-up question. I've been to UW Green Bay's campus, and if I had a student ID, if I was a University of Wisconsin student, would that suffice?
So that is a great question. The answer is yes, of a certain kind.
Oh,
So
there's the
there's
corollary to
always
that too. Okay.
right. Uh, so it has to have an expiration date and a signature. And so specifically UWGB changed their student IDs to not have, so they weren't voter compliant. But students can go get a voter compliant student ID. They just have to do an extra step. So generally the answer is yes, but with caveats.
Oh, so interesting. So it's not a uniform ID across the University of Wisconsin system?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. Um, very, very curious. As we're winding down, you've been super generous with your time. None of us have a crystal ball. Maybe that would be a good thing if we did. Maybe it would be a scary thing. But as you look at another high stakes election, which it pains me to say will probably have record levels of spending for a non-presidential year in Wisconsin, with an open governor's race and all sorts of races up and down the ballot. How are you and your team preparing for this? I mean, every election, I feel like you're learning best practices and technologies modernizing, and frankly, the disinformation ecosystem is also ever evolving. So, how are you gearing up with an eye to the fall?
That's an excellent question, Ari. And I tell my staff, I have a staff of 4 plus me, and then I tell my poll workers the same thing, that we are each other's best partners, right? And so I think first to prepare is to share and to be upfront and to communicate with each other, because you don't want to get something in the mail or a voicemail or a letter that makes you feel uncomfortable, and then you don't act on it, do something about it. So that's the first bulwark really against allowing misinformation to essentially ruin the election. So that's the first part. The second part really is that Um, Obviously, poll worker training is really important. Um, my poll workers ask a lot of questions. They feel very, I think that a good many of them, especially the chief inspectors, the people who run the wards, we call them wards here in Wisconsin. I think they feel that they can ask me anything, which of course they can. The third thing, and this goes back to what I'd said in the beginning, is the very close ties that we have here in Wisconsin. And the benefit to having so many clerks, almost 1,900 of us here in Wisconsin, is that a lot of people have probably shopped in the grocery store with their clerk. And so, in Wisconsin, you can call your clerk. People can get me on the phone, or get the deputy on the phone and ask a question. And we get questions about misinformation from voters, especially for the November elections, frequently. So I think that's one way that we prepare. And when I, do my social media, do my press conferences, I tell people, call us. If you have a question, call your clerk, and so we can walk you through it. And I think that is people makes people feel grateful, and also I think it's again a benefit of real local control.
Well, two follow-up questions to that. So, how many poll workers each election day do you need to find? And
Yeah,
generally, is it difficult to find, or you have kind of consistent regulars?
we have a good bevy of I think 300 to 350, a good pool. Um, we are not these days, we're not really sweating it so much with elections. February is hard because everybody, half our poll workers are over 60 and they're in Florida or Arkansas, right? God bless them. I'm not. I wish I were, but one of these days I will be. Um, so, but
I
it,
didn't know about snowbirds going to Arkansas. I know that a lot of folks go down to the Naples, Fort Myers area or the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, but okay.
let me tell you, Ari, everywhere is warmer than Green Bay. So
Well, you mentioned
Arkansas,
the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. You
yeah,
might have them beat by a degree or two.
yeah, baby, yeah, that's true, that's true, that's true. Plus we don't have, Lake Superior and all that, right? Though that lake effect snow. Um, so we um we have about, like I said, about 350 poll workers, 300 somewhere in there. I'm not the poll worker manager. We also pay our poll workers a fairly decent wage. I think it's one of the highest in the state, so that we can get people back. We have a whole curriculum for poll workers that we've created. The WC has some learning materials, but then we have like a what we teach you based on your experience. Um, so, we don't usually struggle very well, but I always deliver a message when the local media asks me. Yes, I'm always looking for poll workers. I'm always looking for poll workers. So that way I keep that pool fresh and keep the people who are going to stick with us for a while, keep them fresh and supplied with help as well.
Uh, so also on my mind, I'm sure audience members, what machines do y'all use?
Yeah, we use the so we have a thing called Central Count,
Hmm.
which is for absentee ballots. So there's a choice in Wisconsin. You can count absentee ballots at the polls or centrally. So we count them centrally. So for those, we have election systems and software, DS450, a high-speed tabulator, two of them. And then for the wards, we just got thank you to Pat Moynihan, the clerk of Brown County. Who got the county to pay for 50 new DS300 machines, which are the polling place tabulators, and that's also from election systems and software.
50 new machines. Okay,
Yeah,
well, when was
there
the last
was,
time you had a purchase or kind of an upgrade of that
yeah,
size?
2011.
Wow. Okay then. Um, Very good. And if I'm hearing correctly, it is a bit of a community that you can call upon someone 3 counties away or 3 hours away, and you're sharing best practices amongst your
Yes,
peers.
yes. It's, you know, I am warmed and heartened by the kind of help that clerks give each other here in Wisconsin. It's great. It's really great.
Well, once again, super grateful for your time. We are recording during Black History Month. Many folks believe that every month is Black History Month. It's an integral part of American history.
Mhm.
But we'll just be curious as we wind down if, and you alluded to being a trailblazer when you moved to Green Bay 25 years ago and entering public service. So just thoughts on what this month means to you and your family.
Wow, it means everything, and I agree. Every month is Black History Month, and for my Native American neighbors here as well, um, voting has changed. I think that when you're sitting in the middle of an election, especially as a reporter or a voter, or myself as a clerk, I think we all forget that voting has changed and how difficult it was for some people to vote, especially African Americans in this country. Obviously women, obviously, various other groups of people, but very, very hard for African Americans to vote. Poll tests. I mean, I've read some of the poll tests. They're stunning, really. I mean, just stunning. Um, Not being able to vote because you didn't have a certain kind of residency. So voting constantly changes. And I think for Black History Month, for me especially, I'm always looking at, well, how do we acquire the franchise? Quite frankly, how do we keep it? So, and then, my mother, God bless her, is 89. I am saying that on a podcast. She's 89. So she's seen quite a lot. My father passed away about half a dozen years ago. So she's seen quite a lot in this country, for voting, especially the change from voting at 21 to 18. So, I think it's very important for people to know their history and for all Americans to know the history of the triumphs and the struggles of African Americans.
Well, Clerk Jeffries, thank you so much. Those are sage words to end on. Really appreciate this perspective.
Well, thank you, Ari. Thank you for having me.
If you like this episode, please share it on social media and tell your friends. It's the best way for folks to find out about us. I hope you'll agree that our guest is indeed a keeper of the Republic. If you want to learn more about how you can help keep our Republic, stop on over to our website, keepourrepublic.org.